Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to InfoGamer. For this lesson, we're going to be doing a part 3 to our custom matchmaking tutorial. Now this is going to be to fix an error in our code that I made by mistake. Now before we begin, make sure that you subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you can get updates when we publish new videos. I'd first like to start by demonstrating the problem that we're receiving. And so I've built out our photon project, and I'm going to create a new room in our standalone. I'm going to call it ABC, and we'll give it a room size, and we'll click Create Room. And so here we can see that we've created a new room. I'm then going to hit play in our editor. I'm then going to click Find Rooms. And there you can see that it's loaded in all the available rooms. Now our custom matchmaking script is working up until this point. It's able to load in the rooms that were created before you clicked the Find Rooms button. However, the problem comes in when I try to create a new room with another instance of my game. And so I'll load in another instance, and as soon as I'm connected, I'll create a new room. This one will be called DEF, and we'll give it a room size, and I'll click Create Room. Now as soon as I click Create Room, if I try to go back to the editor, you'll notice that everything is frozen. And this is preventing me from doing anything in Unity, even trying to close it. And so in order to fix this, I have to force quit Unity. So I select Unity and I hit End Task, and there you can see that it's now closed Unity. And so now I'm going to reopen our Photon project. Once I have my project reopened, it's time that I start fixing this problem. Now finding this error can be a challenge because there are no error messages being sent to the console window. However, we know that there is a problem because our game is freezing up. And most of the time, whenever your game freezes up like that, it's due to getting stuck in an infinite loop. And so we want to be looking for things like while loops. And we actually have a while loop in our Photon Lobby custom matchmaking script. So I'm going to open that up in Visual Studios. So once we have our script open inside Visual Studios, we want to start looking for our while loop. And my while loop is found right here in my remove room listings function. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to comment out where I'm calling this function, which is in our on room list update function. And now I'm going to save this, and we'll go back to Unity and build our project. So now I'm going to do everything I did before and see if my project crashes. So I'm going to create a new room. I'm then going to hit play in the editor, and I'm going to click Find Room. And there you can see that it's loaded in our available room. I'm then going to create another instance of our game, and I'm going to create a new room and see if our editor freezes up. So I'm going to click Create Room. And there you can see that our editor has not frozen. I'm able to select the editor, and you can see that we have another new room listing. And so it was definitely that while loop that was causing our project to freeze up. For some reason, we were getting stuck in an infinite loop. But now we have a problem that when I try to close one of our game instances, our room listing does not get removed. Instead, it says that we have another room listing, but the room size is 0. That's kind of a weird behavior, and so we're going to fix that now. Now, first off, I'd like to talk about our while loop and why it wasn't working. Now, initially, I thought this while loop would work because, for the most part, the logic makes sense. We're taking our room panel transform, and we're checking to see if it has any children. If it does have children, then we're destroying the first child. And I was thinking that when we're destroying the first child, then the second child would become the first child, and so we would just keep removing children until it doesn't have any more. But I think because this is all happening within a while loop, then our room panel doesn't have time to update the indexes of its children. And so what we would need to do is create some sort of int I equals 0 index, and we would then use that to traverse through all of the children. So we would do something like this. Because if we keep trying to destroy the child object at index 0, and we never give the system time to update the numbering for all the other children, then you can see how we can get stuck in an infinite loop. So now what we could do is we could bring back where we call this function, and then we could save our script. We could go back to Unity, we could test our project and see if it freezes. But I've actually already done that, and I know that it doesn't freeze anymore. However, we have a new problem that we need to fix. And for this problem, we need to understand the information that's passed into this function via the room list parameter. Now initially, I thought this parameter was a complete list of all the active rooms in your lobby. That's why I was trying to remove all the room listings and then recreate those room listings. However, this parameter only gives you a list of the changes that were made from the last update. And because of this, we need to rethink how we're going about this function. So first off, I'm going to again comment out our remove room listings function. The next thing I'm going to do is create a new variable up at the top. So for this variable, we're going to make it a public list. And for the type, we're going to make it a room info. And we're going to call it room listings. Once we've created this variable, the next thing that we need to do is initialize it, and I'm going to do this within our start function. And to initialize it, all we have to do is type room listings equals new list with the type room info and then parentheses. Once we've initialized this variable, we then want to scroll back down to our onRoomList update function, and inside this function, the first thing that we want to do is create a new local variable. This is going to be of type int, and we're going to call it temp index. We then want to jump inside our for each loop, and we're going to create a new if statement, and we're going to check to see if our room listings does not equal null. So if our room listing does not equal null, then we want to check to see if our current room already exists within our room listings variable. And to do this, we're going to use our temp index, and we're going to set it equal to room listings dot find index. Now this is a function that's looking for a parameter of type predicate. Now we haven't talked about predicate functions yet, but we'll create one and I'll kind of explain what they are. But the function name that we're going to be using will be called by name, and we're going to pass in our room.name. Now we need to create an else statement, and so if our room listings equals null, we then want to set our temp index equal to -1. So if our find index function doesn't find a match, it will then return -1 and save that within our temp index. And if our room listings equals null, then we'll also set our temp index to -1. But if our find index function finds a match, it will then return the index for that match and save it into our temp index variable. So the next thing that we want to do is create another if statement, but this time we're going to check to see if our temp index does not equal -1. So if temp index does not equal -1, we then want to remove that element from our room listings, and we want to destroy the actual room listing from our room panel. And so to do this, we're going to type room listings dot remove at, and then we're going to pass in the index, which is saved in our temp index variable. We then want to destroy the actual room listing, and so I'm going to type destroy, and then we want our room panel, and then we want to get child, and we want to pass in the index, which is temp index. We then want to get the game object. So this handles the case in which we find a match in our room listings variable. We now want to handle if we don't find a match. And so I'm going to create an else statement. Now inside this else statement, we first want to add our current room to our room listings variable. And so I'm going to type room listings dot add, and we're going to pass in our room. We then want to create a room listings game object and make it a child to our room panel. And we're already doing that using our list rooms function. So I'm going to cut that and I'm going to paste it inside our else statement. Now the last thing that we need to do is explain predicates and create this predicate function. Now in simple terms, a predicate is a way to reference a more complex class, in this case room info, by using one of its more basic member variables such as name to identify it. So now let's go ahead and create our byName predicate function. So I'm going to scroll down to below our onRoomListUpdate function, and I'm going to type static. I'm then going to access the system namespace by typing system. From here we can then access the predicate return type. So I'm going to type dot predicate, and inside the carets I'm going to type room info. We can then give this function a name, which is going to be called byName. And in the parentheses, we want to pass in a string parameter. So I'm going to type string, and I'm going to call it name. Inside this function, all we have to do is type return, and then delegate. Inside parentheses, we want to type room info, and then room. Inside this delegate, we want to type return room.name, and then equals name. Then want to make sure that we leave a semicolon after our delegate. Now it's not very often that we use predicate functions, and so it's okay if you don't understand how they work. But to give you a brief explanation of what's happening, we're passing in a string that we want to use to identify our room info variable. We're then packaging that up into what's called a predicate, and that's what we're returning. And finally, we're using that predicate to search through our room listings variable for any matches. So now that we've fixed our onRoomListUpdate function, let's go ahead and save this script, and we'll go back to Unity and test our project. All right, so I'm first going to create a new room. I'll call it ABC. I'll give it a room size, and I'll click Create Room. I'll then hit Play in my editor. Once I've connected, I'll hit Find Rooms, and there you can see we have our ABC room. I'm then going to create a new instance of our game. And once this is connected, I'm going to create a second room, and I'm going to call it XYZ, and we'll give it a room size. Click Create. And there you can see we have our two rooms. We have ABC and we have XYZ, and as well, our Unity editor has not been frozen. I'm able to select things in our hierarchy. Now the last thing that we need to test is what happens when we close one of our standalones. Will it remove the room that's connected to it? And so I'm going to remove our ABC room, which is right here. And there you can see that it's removed the listing from our room panel. So now it looks like everything's working the way it should be, but now I want to take some time and run some tests. All right, so there we go. I was able to run a few more tests, and it looks like everything's working. Now, I could run some more tests, but I think this is where I'll stop this lesson. Once again, I want to apologize that the first part to our custom matchmaking tutorial had this problem. I'm glad that we were able to catch it and fix it. I want to thank those of you that left us comments informing us about this error. If you have any questions, make sure that you leave them in the comments below. Also, make sure that you like this video and subscribe to our channel so that you can be up to date on all our latest videos. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.